did it. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the season finale of Open Space, of the QA shows. This is the last show that we're doing. I was supposed to do this last week, but I lost my voice like during the day, and it was like my voice is getting kind of rougher and rougher. I was just like, oh, I can't do this now. So I rescheduled for today. So here we are. And so this episode will go out onto we'll do the edited version the next, later on this week. And then I will be back in September. The final finale. And so this is a thing, I've mentioned this before, but this is a thing that we've been doing for all our various live shows really since the beginning of Astronomy Cast, so about 15 years now. And I get more and more out of getting a chance to not be live streaming nonstop. And so I'm sort of absorbing more and more activity into the hiatus. And I think I've been able to sort of schedule everything and get everything off my plate. And so hopefully this summer will be very nice, very relaxing. That said, we're moving out of our house in about another 3 weeks or so, week to a month. And we're going to be living in a camper on our new property for until we have our shop built. So it's going to be pretty rough. And then I'm probably going to be Airbnb-ing. So I don't even know what the fall is going to look like. I'll try to keep you posted but I will absolutely be just live streaming outside in the forest. So you want me to return back to the green screen? This is how it happens. I will be in the forest doing these episodes, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. And so we talked about this on some of the other shows, but this time the other thing was exactly a week ago we were going through this heat wave, and so right now the temperature outside is about 25 degrees Celsius. Last week at this time it was 39. So the whole house was just insanely hot. I'm right now I'm down in our basement, which is a sunken basement, and so it actually stayed around 25 degrees down here. And so with a fan, it was survivable. But like I said, I was sort of getting parched, and just all we wanted to do was hide inside in the darkness, in the cool spot in the house that we could find, and just wait for this nightmare to end. And now everything's on fire, so it's a different nightmare. Different kind of hell. All right. Cool. All right. Well, let's get into 40 Celsius is forced relaxation. Yeah, exactly. All right. So we'll do the show. Oh, interesting. Okay, I see what Chad has done. Okay, so I'm going to click the recording reminder, Chad. Is that a dog on my back? Did you see the dog? Ona, hey, come here, come on. There we go. This is Ona. My wife is out right now, and so the dog is hanging out with me, and I am a bad substitute. So, okay, go on down. And so she's going to be coming and going, looking for people, looking for my wife as we go. All right. So start the recording and start the audio recording. Okay, we're recording. Yeah, no, it's a English Bull Terrier. So Spuds is right. The target dog. Canadians know what kind of dog. This is Don Cherry's dog. That's what everybody in Canada says. All right. Yes, I am recording. Okay, good. All right. Here we go. It's question show time. Your questions, my answers. As always, wherever you are across my channel, if a question pops into your brain, just write it down. I'll gather them up and I'll answer them here. Now, a note of warning, this is the final episode of the season. So every summer from July to the end of July or beginning of July to the beginning of September, I don't do any live streams. So this is going to be the last episode, and then things will return in September. That said, I'm moving, and I'm going to have a pretty rough place that I'm going to be living. I'm going to be camping on a new property, so I probably won't have the best recording facility in the beginning while we build our new facility. So it could get a little weird in the fall when things return. But again, I'm recording this in early July, so when you see this, there could be some new news. Maybe the Super Heavy booster launched successfully. Maybe Jeff Bezos was able to go to space before Richard Branson. Who knows what the future holds? All right, let's get into the questions. All right, so we got some prepared questions. Philip Thury. Hey Fraser, great channel. My question is, how far up the atmosphere can bacteria be found? Is it high enough that it can seep out into space? One of the amazing discoveries in the last decade or so was that bacteria can actually float pretty high up in the atmosphere, definitely in the tens of kilometers. I'm not really sure exactly how high they go and are they active bacteria at the highest altitudes, but definitely at above 10 kilometers, bacteria are eating, drinking, reproducing, and existing entirely in the upper atmosphere. And so following on to your question though, does that mean that they can seep off into space? Not exactly. Because if you're going to try to get out of the atmosphere and out into space, you still need to go on some kind of escape velocity, which is very fast. So you can fly around in the atmosphere, but once you get out high enough into the atmosphere, it's really hard. There's not a lot of atmosphere to keep you carried up. You're going to fall back down. That said, there are some events that could theoretically kick bacteria out into the rest of the solar system and maybe even the universe. And so this was a paper that came out from Avi Loeb and some of his students about a year and a half ago. And the idea was that there are comets in the Oort cloud that are just barely being held by the gravity of the sun. They're so far out that the amount of the change in velocity that it would take for them to be able to escape the solar system is really tiny. And so you've got these comets that are way out there. Some event happens, causes them to fall into the inner solar system. They pass through the Earth's atmosphere, and this is the key. So they would actually have to go right through the Earth's atmosphere, scoop up a bunch of bacteria, sort of, hitting the windshield of the comet, and then the comet would fly out into the rest of the solar system. It would interact in some kind of three-body interaction with, say, Jupiter or something like that, and it would be kicked out of the solar system into an interstellar trajectory. It would become an interstellar object like Oumuamua or Borisov. And so you'd have this mechanism that would carry bacteria from the Earth's atmosphere, from the upper Earth's atmosphere, out of the Milky Way. And it's thought, out of the solar system. And it's thought that these kinds of events where a comet actually passes right through the atmosphere of the Earth happen about once every 100,000 years. So could you imagine that? Like you're sitting there and the comet is plowing right through the atmosphere. Like that would be intense. I would love to see that. Although that's pretty close to the planet as well. So that would also be a little scary. But yeah, so that's a mechanism on how you could get bacteria out into the solar system and maybe out into other star systems out there in the Milky Way. And if you think of a similar process is happening around every star, around every habitable planet that has bacteria, that has an Oort cloud, and you've got this mechanism happening, maybe you've got this natural way that life is going from star to star across the Milky Way. Master Pack. Dear Fraser, I love space, always have. Am I wasting my life not going to university, etc.? What with kids and having to provide, is this just a life I have to accept is not one of study now? I don't think that you need to define your life as studying, like going to university and then not studying. I think it's important to study all the time on whatever it is that interests you and whatever you want to do to kind of increase your skill set. And I think that we get wrapped up, really caught up in this idea that if someone's not going to give me a piece of paper that says that I did a thing, then it's not worth even starting. But that's ridiculous. I mean, you can go and you can take an astronomy textbook and you can learn everything in the astronomy. You can do all the labs. You can learn your way around the night sky. You can learn to operate a telescope. If you're into computer programming, you can access data sets, you can process images, you can search for different kinds of data, you can teach yourself the math. Like, there's an unlimited amount that we can learn about these subject matters. And having the piece of paper at the end, that will help you get a job if you're willing to go through the enormous sacrifice to become, say, a researching astronomer. But for most people who are into space, you want to learn more about the subject matter, but you don't necessarily want to destroy your career, have to move somewhere, go through the academic lifestyle. It's brutal. So I think that just in general, you should never have this mindset that is it just too late? No, it's never too late. There's plenty of examples of people who have taken, you can take. You can build your own computer science degree where you go through and take every one of the classes that's done in a regular MIT, in a really good university, and you can walk out the other side with the same amount of knowledge, probably more than the people who paid $100,000 for the experience. So I think we should always be learning. I'm learning a bunch of things right now. Obviously, I'm still trying to learn Chinese. I'm learning, I'm learning about space. Every couple of years, I come back around and refresh all of my programming knowledge. So no, I don't think you should have that kind of a mindset. If you're into it, just start learning, and then you'll decide if you're not having fun with it or if you want to go deeper and actually get some kind of proper academic credentials. Dan Baker. Would it be feasible to terraform Venus via sending icy comets at it to both provide water and cause an ice age similar to what happened on Earth with the dinosaurs? Yeah, if you crashed comets into Venus, it wouldn't get you the outcome that you're hoping for. I'm sort of imagining Venus as this hellscape world with atmospheric pressure that's 90 times Earth, temperatures above 450 degrees centigrade, and you're hitting it with a bunch of comets and somehow you're making it better. Like, you're making it worse. And that's kind of crazy to make it worse. So think about what's going to happen, right? You're just going to be smashing these asteroids into Venus. You are definitely going to be, if they're big enough, then you're going to be kicking up some kind of shield of material, of debris in the atmosphere, and that will cool the planet down a little bit. But then all of that material is going to settle back down, and then it's just going to heat back up again. Now, if you're sending in comets are going to be vaporizing. You're going to get water vapor in the atmosphere, and as we know, water vapor is one of the most intense greenhouse gases that we know. So water vapor in the atmosphere of Venus isn't going to help cool the planet down. The way that you cool Venus down is you have to get rid of that carbon dioxide. And there's an insane amount of carbon dioxide. That's the problem. You've got to be able to lock that carbon dioxide away from the atmosphere. And the way to do that, there's sort of two ways to do it. One is you put some kind of shield around Venus so that Venus receives no sunlight. And then the planet will naturally cool down, and eventually all of the carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere will snow down onto the surface of Venus, and then you've got to do something with it. And so that's the part two, is that you've got to figure out some kind of way, probably through chemistry, to be able to lock away all of that carbon dioxide into some kind of inert element. So if you used like limestone on Earth is something that is, if you had various elements, I forget, like calcium, magnesium, you could break up and lock away the carbon dioxide, but you need like a lot. And so you'd have to find some asteroid that's made of pure calcium that you could use to lock up all of that carbon dioxide on Venus. But just crashing comets into planets just doesn't make them better. right. Okay, so those were the questions that I had prepared. So now let's do the new ones. Apologies, I'm just going to look through them. All right, so we got that one. All right. Prince Charming. Question, do you think that we could detect the existence of any intelligent life in the Andromeda Galaxy? Sure, we could detect the presence of intelligent life anywhere in the observable universe. The trick is just that the farther things are, the more difficult it becomes. So the nearest stars to us, let's say you've got Proxima Centauri at like 4 light years away from us. That's pretty close. And so if you had, say, an Earth-sized planet orbiting the star, you had a really powerful telescope, you could observe the atmosphere of the planet, and that could tell you something. Or if there was some intelligent civilization on the planet and they were broadcasting their radio transmissions, then we could theoretically detect them from here on Earth, especially if they were firing if they were broadcasting directly at Earth. If they had like some kind of laser that they were pointing at Earth, we could probably detect it. But once you go farther out, say to the other side of the Milky Way, we're having a hard time even just detecting stars on the other side of the Milky Way. And the Milky Way is like 170,000 light years across. Andromeda is like 2.5 million light years away. And so you would have to have a very, very ambitious technological civilization in Andromeda that has built up some enormous laser that they're beaming in a coherent path directly at us that we could actually detect it. So in theory, there are some other techniques as well, like gravitational microlensing. We're just getting to the point now where astronomers think they're going to be able to start detecting, or at least understanding, whether or not there are planets in Andromeda. And so you could imagine some future really powerful telescope is able to detect stars in Andromeda dimming slightly through gravitational microlensing, and maybe they can detect planets around those stars, and maybe they have some way of detecting some kind of weird technological objects, megastructures orbiting around the planet, orbiting around the stars as the transit is happening. But again, it's all very, very difficult. Like, we're going to have a hard time finding life within 100 light years of us right now. So we'll finish that search first. Whoa. Did I just answer that? Yeah, okay. Good question, Prince Charming, but I just answered one. Sorry. Dasha Bingham. Could intelligent aliens perceive time differently and thus, unlike humans, feel the short-term and long-term in equal urgency, avoiding disasters like climate change and self-destruction? I mean, we really don't know how other civilizations, how other alien species, alien minds would experience time differently from us. But we do have a sense that other animals here on Earth experience time differently from us. And we can experience time in different ways depending on the situation. If we're having fun, time seems to go really quickly. If we're in a lot of pain, time seems to go really slowly. And so even for us as human beings. But there's a situation where you can absolutely get a civilization that can experience time in different ways, and that would, of course, be something that is artificial in nature. I mean, we know that you could take a computer, you can have really how quickly the computer thinks just depends on the clock rate of the computer. And so you could have some future civilization realize that, this is a theory that's been thought of, that you that the best time to exist as a technological civilization is when the universe is the coldest, and that'll be in the far, far future. So there might very well be technological civilizations that realize that the universe is just too hot right now. So they go into a really reduced clock speed. They wait out to the end of the universe until the temperature of the universe is close to absolute zero, and then they wake up and then they get to work. And so that's an interesting idea. So I would say that if you wanted to have some alien species that experiences time differently, it would probably be something that is artificial in nature, technological in nature, as opposed to natural. Because, we experience time partly just through our biochemistry, as well as the natural cycles of how things work on Earth and just our natural environment. So I can't imagine, but I mean, who knows, right? Who knows how aliens will function? We still haven't seen any examples yet that we can even investigate. CLC. Why do spacecraft use so old processing hardware? I bet they can't use hold on a second. CLC. Why do spacecraft use so old processing hardware? I get that they can't use 2021 hardware, but so many use like 10 to 30-year-old stuff. I wouldn't say that spacecraft use 10 to 30-year-old stuff when they're being prepared for launch. They use relatively new hardware. It's just that spacecraft are designed to function for very long periods of time. The Hubble Space Telescope, for example, is 35 now. And so people were working on it for a couple of decades before. And so when they finally settled in on the computers they're going to use on Hubble, and that's like its brain, so it's really hard to remove its brain, you are looking at a very old piece of hardware. New Horizons was being constructed, took a couple of years, and then it flew for 10 years to get to Pluto, and then has been operating for multiple years after that. And so you're definitely looking at gear that is, say, 15 plus years old. Same thing with Cassini, same thing with Galileo. But when you've got like a newer spacecraft that is developed very quickly, you're looking at, say, TESS. TESS was designed and launched within a couple of years. And you've got a couple of other examples of spacecraft that are coming together that quickly. So they're using fairly modern equipment. Now, that said, you don't want to use the absolute bleeding edge because you want to use stuff that has been tested and proven in space. And so, we don't know how like the hottest new Threadripper chip is going to work when it goes to Mars. Will it have the, with a higher nanometer density, is it going to be able to function when it's getting blasted by cosmic rays? And then the other issue is the environment that's going to be working in. If you need something that is more space hardened, you're going to look for something that's more tried and true, more shielded. So I promise you, whenever a new spacecraft is being developed, the engineers look at all of the possibilities and then they select the hardware they're going to go with based on the requirements. And they're always going to try to use the fastest stuff that they can. Perseverance has arrived on Mars, say, 9 years after Curiosity did, and yet it is a dramatic upgrade in terms of its capabilities than even Curiosity. So the march of progress goes on. It's definitely delayed for spacecraft, but it's not that bad. Roger M., you're saying that Hubble seems to pass away. Hubble is in trouble for sure, but I don't think it has not passed away yet. I anticipate months of them trying to figure out how to get Hubble back online. Would aliens be stupid enough to use daylight savings time? Oh, good question. Zapfan, am I excited for the Bezos versus Branson space race? I want it to be safe. I don't want anybody to die. So I would prefer that they took their time and made sure that they were absolutely safe before they took to space, especially the fact that Jeff Bezos is bringing Wally Funk on board, who is an absolute treasure, and it would suck if anything were to happen to her. So, yeah, as long as they're safe. But I think it's funny. I got into an argument on Twitter about, and someone didn't sort of understand, I guess, what my perspective was. And so someone was going into just how complicated it is to keep astronauts alive on the International Space Station, and just the nitty-gritty. It takes thousands of people to keep every astronaut alive on board the International Space Station. And I was sort of following up on that, as, you know, people always talk about, like, are the billionaires going to just try to escape Earth? They're going to go to Mars. They're going to live large on Mars, escape crappy Earth. And the reality is no way. Earth is the best. Mars, the moon, deep space is just pain and suffering on the knife's edge of survival, supported by thousands of people. That Antarctica is a paradise compared to the moon, Mars, or space itself. And so it's not like some billionaire is just going to go, well, I'm done with Earth. I'm going to go and retire on Mars, and that's going to be better. So long, suckers. It's not going to happen. So I thought that was really funny. I think a lot of people are frustrated by this billionaire race, Bezos, Musk, Branson. But I think like billionaires spend money on really stupid things. I mean, if they're spending it on helping humanity reach out to the solar system, I think that's a good thing. And remember, all that money that gets spent on space gets spent back here on Earth. So, yeah. I'll do that one as a question in the show. What? That's weird. Oh, you asked this question twice, Josh. Oh, okay. All right. Now I understand. Jonathan Allen. I was out in the woods this weekend and I saw a ton of lights moving across the sky. How many satellites are visible with the naked eye? If you saw a ton of lights moving, you probably saw the most recent Starlink launch, because after they launch and they're moving up to their final operational altitude, you can see them in this big long line in the sky. But if you just saw lots of satellites, the international, now we have both the International Space Station as well as the Chinese Space Station. So you've got two really bright space stations that are visible in the sky, although the Chinese one isn't anywhere near as bright as the International Space Station. But on any night, like here in Canada, during the summer, when the satellites are well illuminated, you can see a satellite almost all the time. So wherever you look in the sky, if you sort of wait, look around, you can see some satellite moving across the sky. And it's kind of cool. The Starlinks are just beyond vision with the unaided eye once they're in their final operational altitude, unless you live in like really dark skies and you're using a telescope or binoculars. So from what I understand, you can see a few hundred satellites that are visible in the sky. And I know that people are building these giant mega constellations coming up over the next couple of years, but it really just depends on how bright these individual satellites are going to be, whether or not they'll make any change. I mean, a lot of people are really worried about these mega constellations destroying our view of the night sky, and chances are they won't. You could go out in dark skies, look up, and you won't see this matrix-like grid of satellites moving across the sky. The people who are affected are the astronomers, especially the professional astronomers, who will be taking their science data, and in their telescopes, the satellites are absolutely visible, and they cause streaks that run right through the galaxy they were trying to observe and ruin all those frames. So as more and more of these satellites go up, the more difficult it's going to get to be able to observe the night sky from here on Earth. Mitch Harpino, with the future moon missions upcoming, are there any plans to visit the old moon landing sites? Not yet. Not yet. Sort of, they want to keep going to new places. Although with one of the Apollo missions, and I apologize, I don't remember which one it was, they went to one of the old landing sites for the Lunar Surveyor mission, and so they brought back the camera system from the rover, and in that they think they found bacteria that had survived in the radiation of being out on the moon for several years, which is kind of cool. So there's huge value. I'm sure it won't be long. Maybe Musk will do it. That one of the first missions will do is go and land at the Apollo 11 landing site. Although they are considered World Heritage sites, so you got to be really careful if you're going to do that. All right. Nuno Fernandez. Would you like to go into cryosleep and wake up 500 years from now and learn about all the science that have been discovered? It's a good question. People always ask me, like, would you prefer to go forwards in time or backwards in time? And for me, it's always forwards in time. I would way prefer, 500 years into the future. That would be awesome. I would love to do that. Now, obviously with a few caveats, like you've got to promise me in advance that there won't be an apocalypse and I'll have to live through a post-apocalyptic agrarian society filled with pain and suffering. Like, I want like a future that continues on where interesting new technology is happening. Yes, that would be awesome. Would I do that? Would I like say goodbye to my friends and family, wife and children? Probably not. I think I'm going to stick with my plans for my robot body instead, and then I'll be able to do both. I'll be able to enjoy time here on Earth, and then I'll be able to shift over into my beep boop robot body and last 500 years. That's the plan. Larry Beckham, you going to go install a heat pump in the new place? Yeah, absolutely. We're building a heat pump in the new location, so it gives us air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter for a fraction of the price of what baseboard electric heat costs. So yeah, we have enough, like we have space, so we're gonna be able to like dig down and put probably like a liquid cooled loop in the ground that will then use the constant temperature of the ground to maintain the temperature inside the house. So that's the plan anyway. But yeah, I almost got a heat pump in this house a couple of times, but just didn't get around to it. Lewis Nelson Smith. I'm disappointed with Hubble and James Webb delays. Can we develop smaller scale telescopes that would be better than land-based telescopes and quicker to send up into space than James Webb? Well, I don't know why you're disappointed with Hubble. Hubble has been operating successfully for 35 years. It's probably the finest scientific instrument that's ever been launched. Wait, is it 30 years? I should probably change that. How long has Hubble been around for? I think I said 35 years earlier as well. 1990. Okay, so 30 years, right? 33 years? Okay. You see the dog. Yeah, the dog is wandering back there. All right, let me do this again. Lewis Nelson Smith. I'm disappointed with Hubble and the James Webb delays. Can we develop smaller scale telescopes that would be better than land-based telescopes and quicker to send up into space than James Webb? Well, the problem is that a big telescope going to space is complicated, expensive, and a very delicate operation, and you have to take your time. That's the problem. And so, like, the Hubble Space Telescope is a 2.4 meter telescope, and then compare that with the biggest telescopes that are on Earth right now, say the Keck observatories at 10 meters, or the but Hubble is like the size of a bus, so it's a very big machine, and the only spacecraft that was capable of launching into space was the space shuttle at the time. James Webb has a telescope main mirror that's like 6.5 meters across, and it is really big. And the only way they could make this thing work was to fold it up into an Ariane 5 fairing, and then have this really complicated mechanism that makes the whole thing fold out. And it was a lot of that technology that caused the delays. So I think lessons were learned in the creation of both Hubble and James Webb. You've got examples of spacecraft that launched fairly quickly and did a great job, like Kepler, although its reaction wheels died. So maybe that's a bad example. Things like Herschel. You've got a fairly simple design where you've got it kind of looks like the Hubble Space Telescope, as big as will fit inside the fairing of your rocket. It's a tube. It's a mirror, and it goes to work. The next one that's going to be coming on that class is probably the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope, which is the same size as the Hubble Space Telescope, but it's going to have a much wider field of view. Same thing, tube, mirror, goes inside a rocket, flies to space. Doesn't have to do this really complicated folding, which is what James Webb is going to do. But I think to get to those really next level big space telescopes, we just need bigger launchers or better folding or space-based construction. Probably space-based construction is the way to go. So I think James Webb is going to be the last telescope which is built down on Earth, folded up nice, flown to space, unfolded. We saw it was a very complicated, very expensive affair. So the next generation of giant space telescopes are going to be constructed in space. You're going to send up the main computer bus, and then you're going to send up the one part of the mirror, one segment of the mirror, and then another segment, and then the bus is going to have little robotic arms, and it's going to put all of the different mirror segments together and align them properly, and it's going to build out its solar panels. And so, that technology is relatively straightforward. I mean, we saw that astronauts were able to build the International Space Station out of a whole bunch of pieces. So imagine a space telescope that's built out of a bunch of pieces. If one piece fails, don't worry about it, just launch another piece. So that's probably what the future holds. But that's a whole new series of technologies to develop, of roadblocks to go through, of delays to go through. The other path that's moving quite quickly is the development of ground-based observatories. I mean, the next generation, we're going to see 30-meter telescopes, 39-meter telescopes down here on Earth, which are going to leapfrog what James Webb is capable of, definitely what Hubble is capable of, start to get on par with what some of the next generation big space telescopes will be able to do. The extremely large telescope is going to be able to observe habitable worlds, Earth-sized worlds orbiting sun-like stars out there in the universe. So, scientists always want better. They want the best possible instrument they can get their hands on, and that often means that you've got to be ambitious about what it is that you create. And whenever you're ambitious, there's the possibility that you're going to have failure, that you're going to have delays, and that just goes as part of the territory. So you shouldn't be frustrated. Like, obviously everyone's frustrated. Like, nobody wants James Webb to take longer than it did. But that's what you get when you reach far. Jonathan, do you think the first orbital Starship payload will be Cybertruck? That would be awesome. The Falcon Heavy sent Starman in a Tesla. Yeah, Cybertruck, that'd be crazy. Topical Tom Garcia, what if James Webb fails? Who do we blame? It depends on how it fails. Like, does it fail because the rocket failed to take it to orbit? Then we blame Arianespace. Does it fail because someone forgot to put the right actuators in, and whoever did it? It's not going to fail. It's going to be successful. It's going to work. It has to. Oh my God. I can't even think about it. I can't. La, 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 la. I'm not even going to think about it. Verdadero. Hey Fraser, do you think we had some knowledge about the universe thousands of years ago that was lost and still not found with all our modern tech? Perhaps some rare event or debris still buried. The capability of modern science to observe the universe is is incredibly more capable than anything ancient peoples ever had. I mean, we have telescopes. Like, we didn't know that Saturn had rings until the 1600s when Galileo first turned a telescope on Saturn. We didn't know that Jupiter had moons and bands across itself. We didn't know that the Milky Way was made up of stars until, again, Galileo. We didn't know that Venus went through phases until Galileo. So it was really the advent of the telescope that gave us our modern understanding of the night sky. Now, there have been events that would have happened in antiquity that have never been experienced by modern astronomers, like a relatively close, very bright supernova that went off in the sky. It's been 400 years since the last bright supernova was seen, but imagine one that was really close. Maybe just a couple of hundred light years away. It would have happened in the eyes of some human at some point in the last several 100,000 years that humans have been around on Earth. Think about that thing that I talked about at the beginning, where a comet passed right through the atmosphere of the Earth. Like there were ancient Homo sapiens around on Earth to witness that kind of event, and also the ones that came within 100 kilometers of the atmosphere and within 1,000 kilometers of the atmosphere. So we always see these tiny little dim comets that are really far away, but people have been around to see just terrifyingly bright, close comets. But I'm not sure that they would have any kind of knowledge about what it is that they were seeing. There would have been very bright asteroid strikes on the moon that would have been visible from people here on Earth. So I think there are a bunch of really rare events that would have happened very close to home, but they wouldn't have had the kinds of tools to help them analyze what it is that they were seeing. So no, I don't think that anyone has had as much knowledge about the universe as we have right now today. And in 10 years from now, I would be able to say the same thing, that we were living in the dark ages compared to what we know now. And as we gain more knowledge, better technology, better telescopes, better instruments, we learn more and more. Man, I don't know. Roger M., we talked about, so what about a possible mission to refurbish the Hubble Space Telescope using a Dream Chaser with a Canadarm attached, launched an Ariane 5 rocket? Yeah. I mean, I talked about a Falcon 9 with a Crew Dragon, maybe with a Canadarm attached, but there's a lot of mixes and matches of technology. The question is just like, does it make sense to refurbish Hubble one more time? You know, like when you have a car and the car is starting to go bad and the maintenance costs are getting really expensive. Yeah, you could keep taking your car into the mechanic forever. And eventually your mechanic will be like, I had to go on eBay to find the part. I had to go to a junkyard to get a piece for what you needed. Like at a certain point, it just doesn't make any more sense to keep maintaining. And I think we're at that point with Hubble. Like we're seeing all of these failures on Hubble that it's time to let it go. If it is dead, it's dead. Mitch Harpano, if Betelgeuse went supernova and appeared today on a scale of 1 to oh my god, how giddy would you be? Oh my god. I'd be 100% oh my god. 11. It'd be awesome. To see a visible supernova in our time, that would be I want to see a bright comet. The universe always be a nice bright comet. And I anticipate seeing that in my lifetime. But a supernova? That would be crazy. Like only every few hundred years do we get a bright supernova in the sky. So I don't think that's going to be my chance. A.V. Scott and Flower, how's the Starlink connection working so far? It works great when we have electricity at our new site, which we don't have. So the only time we've used Starlink is when we plug it into the car and run it. Then it works great. Terrific. for a couple of minutes. Then we turn off the car again because we don't want to use gas while we're trying to use our internet. So a couple of times we turned on the car, ran the Starlink, downloaded a bunch of TV shows on Netflix, and then turned it back off again. So I'm really looking forward to a time when I have electricity so that I can actually run Starlink. So we'll know. Like I will, even though I'm saying this is my season finale, I will probably do a couple of live streams just to see if it works or not. So stay tuned on that. Whoa. Okay. Vilk. How would a civilization close to a black hole experience time and perceive the age development of the universe? Thanks for the job you do. Kind regards from Norway. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So if you were a civilization that was living relatively close to a black hole, then you would be in the black hole's field of time dilation. And we saw in the movie Interstellar, right? Matthew McConaughey and team goes down to this planet orbiting this supermassive black hole. They are down there for a day, and when they come back up, decades have passed for the rest of the universe. And so imagine that was your home. You would be experiencing, you would be watching the universe move at high speed. You'd be seeing other planets zipping around the black hole. You would be seeing stars being born and then die. You would see the cosmic microwave background radiation would be blue shifted into a higher spectrum, maybe to the point that you could have solar panels that are absorbing the cosmic microwave background radiation because it's been pushed into, say, even like the visible spectrum. So it really just depends on how close you are to that black hole. And so it's been theorized that if a civilization wanted to live a really long time, they would huddle up close to a black hole. Now, one of the advantages of being close to a black hole is that you can throw matter into the black hole. You can harvest the energy as material is kicked back out of the black hole. There's bursts of radiation that are going to happen. But then you could just experience an accelerated universe because of the time dilation. So it's a pretty cool idea. And it's often been considered like the last comfortable place to live after the rest of the universe has cooled down. And so we talked about at the beginning about those civilizations that are waiting until the universe cools down. So maybe what they do is they wait, and at the very end, they set up shop around a black hole, tune the time dilation exactly how they like it, and then live out billions, trillions, quadrillions of years in an accelerated rate, doing whatever they do. Cryptoman 5000, is Betelgeuse close enough to harm Earth if it novas? No. Nope, too far. You have to be within a few dozen light years for it to be dangerous. Ken DeBusk, probably been answered hundreds of times, but at some launches I see a square array of towers around the rocket. What is that? So are you talking about the launch gantry itself, or are you talking about towers that are out and around? I mean, some are there to catch lightning if necessary. I have to know sort of exactly which thing you're talking about. Yeah. There can be support towers that are holding the main, they've got cables running up to hold the main tower up. Yeah, I'm not sure. Francis Tony, do you think there's a business model for Starship at the moment? Lots of R&D and infrastructure costs being spent, worried they won't survive the gap until it could be really useful, and Starlink may not cover it. SpaceX built the Super Heavy booster number 3 in 6 weeks. This is the biggest booster rocket that's ever been made, bigger than the Saturn V by a lot. It took them 6 weeks. They just built it. They stacked up steel, put in a bunch of fuel tanks, and they think they're ready to go with ground tests. Booster number 4 is probably the one that will try to do hops and eventually go into orbit. Like, if Starship works, this is the big if, right? Then the rockets are cheap to make, and they're really cheap to operate. The cost is really just the fuel, which compared to the cost of a regular rocket is a fraction of the price. And so the business model for Starship is everything that if you like, would you pay $400 million to get your satellite launched on a Atlas V, or would you pay $1 million to get your satellite launched on a Starship, on a Super Heavy? Like, it's orders of magnitude cheaper than any other launch facility out there. Even these small ones like Rocket Lab, like even the cheapest launcher is going to be the fully reusable rocket. So the business model, it's kind of like where the business model sort of taps out is they will run out of things to launch. They will launch every single rocket, every single satellite, every single mission that anyone has ever wanted to do, and then they'll have to think of clever new ideas for what to launch with Starship. So yeah, I think the business model for Starship is going to work really well. Again, compare that with the development time of how long it took to build the SLS, right? Like, it's crazy if it works. If it doesn't work, then yeah, SpaceX has some problems. Old gamer noob, yeah, single CubeSat in a Starship, yeah. If you want your own trajectory, yeah, you could launch a single CubeSat in a giant Starship. Although it's a waste of space. Like, they'll fill it with 1,000 other CubeSats who want to use that same trajectory. RJQ, are you disappointed that Trident was not picked? We've only been to Neptune once and don't even have images of all of Triton. Seems like a visit to Neptune is slipping outside of our lifetimes. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I mean, but how can you choose? Like, would you like a mission to the atmosphere of Venus? Yes. Like, to do like really good scans of the surface of Venus. Like, right now we have scans that are, say, 100 meters per pixel, but we could get down to 1 meter per pixel. It could tell us, is there plate tectonics on Venus? Is there still volcanism on Venus? Why Venus? What happened? Why did it go so bad? Yes. That's Veritas. Would you like a probe that would fall through the atmosphere of Venus, sampling the atmosphere at different levels, maybe helping build up the case from an atmospheric sense of what happened to Venus? That's Da Vinci Plus. Yes, please. Would you like a mission to Io? Like, nobody's been to Io. We've got some images from Galileo, we've got some images from the Voyagers, but nobody's gone and put an orbiter around Io and really imaged that planet. We would see just the craziest volcanoes at different perspectives from orbit. Yes. And would you like a mission to Neptune to see Triton and do a quick flyby and see some more views? I mean, we know that Triton probably has cryovolcanism in the same way that Europa and Enceladus do. Yes. So, like, it is not fair to ask me to choose which one of these missions I would like the best. Like, I'm serious. Like, if I was on the committee that had to vote, I'd just be like, I'm out. Like, I can't vote. Just you guys decide. Because I can't choose, because I want them all. And I think that's what I hope, is that these missions will just get kicked down to the next cycle. And maybe if Starship is able to launch these things for cheap, then maybe suddenly we get all the missions that we want. So here's hoping. Like there's a business model. Send probes to every object in the entire solar system. Maybe on one Starship mission. Cryptolicious. Fraser, what do you think that after 50,000 generations of humans, that we are the generation able to find life beyond Earth with the next generation satellites? It is kind of amazing that we are poised at this time in the state of all human history that we are finally able to at least try to answer the question of whether or not we're alone in the universe. But I mean, there's a million of these kinds of questions. Like, it's thanks to our science that we're able to have a conversation with a computer. I mean, a fairly dumb conversation with a computer, but it's getting better. To be able to hold all the knowledge of humanity in your hand. To be able to watch some journalists talk about space from wherever you live in the world. So, I mean, just all of these technologies that we've come up with so far just enable more and more of our understanding of the universe, of our capabilities to be able to do things faster and better. And being able to find out whether or not we're alone in the universe is just one of these amazing things that we're able to do now. The future is awesome. Arjone. Will the new LIGOs going online improve our resolution? How far can we hear collisions, Kagra, etc.? Yeah, right now we're in a bit of a downtime with the LIGO observatories while they're doing a bunch of upgrades on these various gravitational wave observatories. And when the next round comes online, they're essentially going to be, they put a bunch of new technologies in, ones that improve the sensitivity, ones that allow, they've got this thing called quantum squeezing, but essentially using quantum mechanics, they're able to, and I forget the exact way this works, but essentially you can know the position or the speed of a particle, but you can't know both. And so you can kind of, they're pushing this uncertainty in one direction, that it gives them the kind of information that they want while sacrificing the other question. And so they're able to get a much larger volume of space that they're going to be able to observe. And they're going to be able to observe more interesting objects. They're going to be able to see stuff happen more often. So up until this point, we saw maybe one gravitational wave event every week. Now maybe we're going to see one black hole neutron star collision every week, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty exciting time for gravitational wave observatory. And I just saw today that the Europeans have approved their next generation gravitational wave observatory. It's a three-legged gravitational wave, one big giant three-legged gravitational wave observatory, sort of like the way LISA is going to work, be this triangle with signals going around inside of it, with much longer arms than we have with LIGO. So what's great about gravitational wave observatories is each one that gets added to planet Earth, there's, as you say, Kagra, the one in Japan, there's one that's going into India. Each one just improves the overall capability of our ability to detect gravitational waves. And this is just going to continue. And as the space ones come online, we just get more and more sensitive about detecting gravitational waves. All right. So Helmet Bimboka, I don't know how to explain the actual physics of this, but if there was nothing else in the universe and you had a space station that was rotating, you would still experience centrifugal force while you're inside of it. There is no independent reference frame. If you read Brian Greene's book, not the first one, but the second one, he talks about that. And it's pretty cool. All right, I'll do one more. Walid Damouni, do you think robot bodies are coming before bioengineering immortality? I don't know. I'll take either one. I think I prefer a robot body just because then I can do backups. But if the process is destructive, then I won't do it because I don't want to die to live forever. That defeats the purpose. So, all right, I'll wrap this up, but we'll do some overtime. Okay. I'll do the Patreon. More questions in a second, but first I'd like to thank our patrons, Nathan Conklin, Simon Keynes, Kako Saraf, and the rest of our 817 patrons for their generous support. Want our videos early with no ads? Join our community at patreon.com/universetoday. Okay, and then I'll do the outros. All right, those were the questions this week, and those were the questions for this season. So once again, this is the last episode of the 2021 season. I will be back in September with brand new interviews, question shows, and other new interesting ideas that I'll be working on over the summer. So I hope you all have a fantastic summer, and I will see you all in a couple of months. If you want a single comprehensive resource for space news, you'll want to subscribe to my weekly email newsletter. Every Friday, I send out a magazine of space news with dozens of stories, pictures, brief highlights, and links you can find out more. Go to universetoday.com/newsletter to sign up. It's totally free. And did you know that all my videos are also available in a handy audio podcast format so that you can have the latest episodes as well as special bonus material like interviews with me show up on your audio device? Go to universetoday.com/audio or search for Universe Today on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll put a link in the show notes. Thanks to all the moderators, and a special thanks, as always, to Chad Weber and Nancy Graziano. All right, stop the recordings. All right. Arjun, why are you moving? Did you need a better set for outdoor shows? I mean, the main reason we're moving is that my kids are largely up and out of the house. And so where we live in Courtenay, in the city on Vancouver Island where we live, we're close to where the kids went to elementary school. Like when I moved to this place, it was 17, almost 18 years ago. And it was perfect for a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And now I have a 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. And the 20-year-old is going to university down in Victoria and living with her boyfriend. And the 18-year-old is about to move out and live with his girlfriend. And so this home is perfect for people who want to be able to walk their kids to elementary school. And so it's a good place for families, but not a good place for a couple of empty nesters. And then the other thing is, like, the dream has always been, like, Carla and I are really into the nature. And, you know, when I grew up, my father bought 5 acres of raw land on this little island off the coast of Canada and cut down trees and built his own house, and they farmed and all that kind of stuff. And so that was my childhood. And you miss not being connected to nature in that way. And, you know, we're surrounded by cars and traffic and loud noises and city lights. And so it would be great to just be able to be away from the city. And the challenge has always been, like, I work on the internet. My wife works on the internet. And so we don't have an easy way to be able to access internet. And so that was the big requirement, was for some high speed internet solution to come along, and that's Starlink. So I would say that Starlink actually encouraged us to be able to make this move out into the country. Now, we're not going to be that far out of the country. I've timed it. It takes exactly as long to get Costco from the new house as it took from this house. So we're not going to be that far out of town, but we're definitely going to be in a much more rural environment. And yeah, you'll definitely be seeing that. And the other thing that Carl and I have wanted to do was try to restore a piece of land. So we wanted to get a piece of land that had been wrecked by logging and because there's plenty of that here, or fire, something like that, and try to help restore it. And so the land that we purchased is like it was an old logging site, cut down, and then someone bought it and then planted a whole bunch of Christmas trees on it. I think their plan was they were going to sell Christmas trees, but then they let them all grow. So it's like 1,000,000 trees, like 15-foot trees, this big around, this far apart. So it's going to be a lot of work to try to sort of maintain it. So that's probably going to be my hobby is trying to help restore the land. And it's kind of an interesting process. And of course, Carla is a nature photographer, and so we want to try and create a place with a lot of biodiversity on it that has lots and lots of bugs and birds and reptiles and amphibians and stuff coming onto the property, and bears and cougars and deer. So that's the plan. And so hopefully as I go through this process, I'll at least you'll get some sneak peeks into what we're doing. So rural BC environment. I will have dark skies. I'm definitely going to set up a telescope for sure. So yeah, that's the plan. We're going to have chickens, a greenhouse, lots of gardening. So yeah, we don't have pine. We have fir, and it's just as bad. Fir trees just light on fire. So one of my challenges is going to be to manage the fire risk of the property. And so the way you do that is you plant deciduous trees among the conifer. You spread out the fir trees, like you thin them out, and then you also plant a lot of deciduous trees, maple trees, alders, cottonwoods, things like that. So that's the plan. There are wolves on Vancouver Island. Actually, we have what are called sea wolves. So they're not in the uplands, but they're out by the coast, and they eat fish and shellfish. And so when you hike along the beach, you can see wolves, sea wolves, and they see you. All right. Damien Reloaded, can you get Solar City there? We'll probably get some solar panels, but you know, in BC, all of our energy is renewable. It comes from hydro. In fact, our electricity, we call our electricity BC Hydro because it comes from hydroelectric dams. So we were able to get a fairly easy connection to hydro. So we'll start there with just electricity, and then maybe put some solar panels on, because where we are, the power goes out quite a lot. But, you know, I'm not really, you know, we live in Canada. It's not great for solar panels. Yeah, watch out for bears. Yeah, so I'm going to have to build an electric fence around our garden to stop the bears from eating. I think I mentioned this story at one point that we had, like even here in the city, you got to be careful with your trees, your fruit trees. And so I had left a bunch of apples on my fruit tree, and at one point a bear had come in and they broke my fruit tree, pulled all the apples off of it, took a shit on the lawn, and yeah. And then my neighbor had a pear tree, and he let the pear tree go too long, so the pears started to rot a bit and get turned a bit to alcohol. And again, a bear got into his backyard, ate all the pears, passed out drunk under his pear tree. So yeah, wildlife is definitely a concern where we live. Will you aim for a degree of self-sufficiency? Nah, not really. I think that self-sufficiency is kind of for suckers. Like what I want to do is I want to grow stuff that I can't get normally. So I want to grow weird food that is hard to just go buy in the store. Like we have a bunch of berries here that grow that you've never tasted, like thimbleberry. Well, maybe some of the people who are watching, but thimbleberries. Like Google it. It's a thing called a thimbleberry, and it's the most delicious berry you've ever tasted. It's better than strawberry. It's better than cherry. It's better than anything. But they're like mush. Like you pull it off of the plant and it just sort of falls apart in your hands. And so really it'll only live as long as from the plant to your face. And so that's what I want. I want to be able to grow stuff that I'm like, here's weird Asian pears that you just never find in the grocery store. That's what I want. But no, I don't want to be self-sufficient. I love Costco. Go fill up my, fill up my shopping cart with the raw supply. I don't have time to try and grow my own food. That's madness. Nice Twitcher. Yeah, I went to a speaking engagement at Twitch and they gave me a shirt. The bear was fertilizing the lawn as a thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Better than blackberries and raspberries. That is, yeah. A thimbleberry is better than a blackberry or a raspberry. And if you have never had a thimbleberry, you don't know. So you have to take my word for it. Yeah. Blackberries are good. They're fine, but they got like a lot. Like, when you eat a blackberry and you get those little seeds stuck between your teeth. Thimbleberries are just like this, just pure juice going in your face. It's good. Old man doing high kicks and only in black socks. Why did you decide to go with Starlink and not another satellite service? Because Starlink gives you like 200 megabits down, 50 megabits up with 18-second ping times as opposed to the horrible satellite services that were here already. Oh, crazy. Blackberries are the best. Fight me. Have you ever tried a runner blackberry, which is blackberries that grow on these vines that run along the ground? They're better. Wild blueberries cannot be beat. Yeah, wild blueberries are pretty good. We have like 3 different kinds of blueberries on the West Coast. And then we have a bunch of different kinds of huckleberries, Saskatoon berries. We have about 20 different berries that I know how to eat in the forest. I have to fight bears for the berries. Do you have any hybrid coyotes? I think we have coyotes on Vancouver Island. We definitely have them in Vancouver. Dustin King, my mom has a bird feeder. She may as well call it a bear feeder. Yeah, definitely. That's going to be an issue. Salmon berries. There you go. Yeah, we have salmon berries. Salmon berries are an acquired taste. Some people like them. I like them, but they're a little bitter. So, will there be less light pollution in your new environment? Yeah. We already have a lot less light pollution here, just where I live. I mean, I can see the Milky Way from my backyard, but where we're moving to, yeah, the sky is so much better. It's going to be really impressive. A fire bunker. It's just a matter of time before you need it. Yeah. We're kind of lucky and unlucky. So what happened was the people who owned the land before us cleared out a big chunk of the space. They cleared about 5 acres to the ground. And so where we're building our house is kind of in the middle of the space, and so we're not going to be close to any trees, and we're going to maintain a pretty big perimeter around the house free of trees. And I'm just going to be weeding the trees. So fire is definitely going to be a huge concern. Like I'm really freaking out about fire already. Like we've had plenty of wildfires on the island, and I know that I'm going to have a bunch of close calls with fires. Miguel Angel Romero, wow, bears, how do you protect your dogs from the wildlife? Well, don't tell Carla, but people here call their dogs bait. So you you don't want to walk in the forest without a dog. I mean, you do, you can, and you do. You take a bear spray, but a lot of the times cougar bait. Yeah. You'll walk in the forest and if the dog will see a bear and bark at it, or a cougar, and hopefully that'll drive it away. And if it needs to, the dog will try to defend you. So, but it's never come up. I mean, we've seen a couple of, we see bears a few times a year. We see bears. And I've never seen a cougar in my life. So, yeah. Fun fact, everything you see in space is in the past. Fun fact, everything you see is in the past. Not just space. Pizza berries. Never even heard of that. So someone a couple of months ago was suggesting that I check out this YouTuber that is like my brother from another mother. He searches for weird fruit around the planet and tries them, and it's like so cool. Yeah. So I am super into harvesting fruit from the forest. And in fact, that's what I want, with my garden and greenhouse. I just want to grow weird fruit. Like I want to grow a dragon fruit and so on. So, Tropical Tom Garcia, we have bears here, but I walk with a 30-30 instead of a dog. The science seems to say that a bear spray is a lot better than a gun with, against bears. Like, it seems like even hunters will carry bear spray here to protect themselves, and they know that if the bear is coming at them, they use the bear spray, not the gun, because you've got to be really lucky to kill a bear, or to stop a bear. Mostly you just make them mad, and so instead you spray just in the general direction, and that will usually deter a bear. Is the house built and ready to move in? No, we haven't even got the septic field, electricity, and well installed yet. So probably within the next month and a half, we should get those there, and we're going to hook up our trailer. We've got like a 30-foot travel trailer that we're going to live out of. And then we're building a shop first that we're going to have built probably by the end of December into early spring. And then we've got to save up money to get, until we get enough money to actually start building our house. So it's probably going to be a couple of years. If you shoot a bear, you just make them angry. So, how big is the land? It's 80 acres. So it's pretty big. Are we building it ourselves? No, we have a contractor. Although, we're going to be helping out and doing a lot of the work ourselves. But yeah, we have because it was so destroyed, we were able to get the property. We got it like a couple of years ago. Let's see. I don't know, all these questions about them. Yeah, there's tons of mountain bike trails that end up right at the property and are accessed from the property. So that's the plan as well, is to do a ton of mountain biking, do a lot of trail building around there. Time is it? 6:17. All right. If we world about wildfires, we get goats. Do goats help with reducing I guess they do. Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you, everybody, for joining me this season. That was super fun. I look forward to many more years of hanging out here and spreading the space news. We've got, obviously over the summer, we're still going to be doing all of the news on Universe Today. I'll still be doing that every day. I'll still be managing the team. I'll be writing the newsletter every week. So that's all going to be happening, but I won't be trying to find high-speed internet to do a live stream every week. So super fun. Look forward to the fall season, and I hope you guys all have a really good summer. All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next season.